Hey guys, we're back. It's me and Marshall again. We do this every 2 weeks probably.
Yeah, something like not as much as we should, but I think it's good. People are liking them, and it gives them time to get caught up with all the old ones.
Yeah, and the other videos are doing good. You want to tell what you've been doing lately, or you had a pretty decent interview to check out?
Yeah, so I did an interview recently with Serena McCoy, the Black Rose, who is a top Mayweather Boxing Club prospect, former five-time national Golden Gloves champion, and former junior Olympic gold medalist. She's going to be a world champion in the next 2 years, and she's only 19 years old right now. Go check that interview out. And we also did one with Glenn Johnson and Jesse James Leha, two former world champions. Glenn Johnson was ranked in the top 10 pound for pound after beating Antonio Tarver, and Roy Jones back-to-back fights back in 2004.
Perfect. So check those out. I'm gonna give a shout out to GMAC. Check him out. He does some impersonations, funny shit on YouTube. He's a good guy, good kid. So go support him, subscribe to him, and keep doing that too. And I'm also going to give a shout out again to MMA ENIAC for making a pretty sweet Frank Trigg template for my video. So give him a shout out too. But today we are doing who's on my shirt, a video about Daniel Cormier. Ooh, there we are, lost it. And it's what if what is it? What if he was 5 years younger? Or
Yes. What if Daniel Cormier had have gone to MMA early in his career? We're gonna go with the age of 25. So that brings us back to 2004. He joined Strikeforce in 2009, September 2009, and he was 30 years old. So we're gonna go with if he was 25 years old back in 2004.
all right, so you want to start us off since you have the Mr. Laptop in front of you?
Yeah. So his first fight, like we said, was in Strikeforce, September 25th, 2009, against Gary Frazier. And you know what happened. TKO'd him, obviously. Probably one of the best of all time fighting guys who shouldn't be in the ring with him. So if we jump back 5 years, we look at the UFC champions. There was no
Mm-hmm.
Strikeforce before. I think Pride was just closing its doors around this time. He probably would have joined the UFC. Um, the light heavyweight champions were Vitor Belfort and Randy Couture. They switched back and forth, like they won one fight apiece. And the heavyweight champions were Tim Sylvia and Frank Mir.
Oh boy. So we got to take in consideration, first of all, that being said, MMA at the time wasn't ahead of that time, like competition, everything. So we're taking in that Cormier is at the level of like he's still at the level. Are we taking that into consideration, or would he not be as developed?
Well, okay, so if Daniel Cormier in his career, he competed in the 2004 Olympics, he came fourth, and then he competed in the '08 games as well. So I'm saying if he just went after the '04 games and went right into the Olympics.
His wrestling
So
would still be so much higher than everyone out there. So, and he'd be such a different kind of athlete for those divisions. Um, don't even get me started on Randy Couture. I mean, that doesn't go good with me. So he would Vitor wasn't a good fighter yet. I don't think at that point he was still kind of young. He was better in his middle career. I don't see anything the light heavyweight division would offer if he was starting at that time. He would go through Tito. He would go through Chuck. It would also he would ruin legacy for those fighters because you just remember like Liddell, Ortiz, Couture. They wouldn't. Well, maybe Couture because he was around before then, still champion. But would Liddell even have won a belt?
yeah, so the thing we got to look at here is, yes, he would have been more one-dimensional at the time, but he was one-dimensional in his early days in Strikeforce. He developed his striking game over the course of his career, and he's a decent boxer now. But back then, like you said, MMA wasn't evolved the way it is now. He wouldn't have to be well-rounded, and he wouldn't have to have the striking capabilities that he has now. I don't think Chuck Liddell ever touches him. Tito definitely doesn't. Randy Couture, I don't see how he beats him. And then the heavyweight division would be even easier work for him, I think.
Yeah, at that time you'd have Frank Mir young. You'd have your best friend Tim Sylvia, the greatest heavyweight of all time.
You're still,
Um, there really wasn't much going on there. We had guys like Wes Sims in the heavyweight division that were contenders, and I think Cabbage. I don't know if you remember Cabbage, who was still around. So we were talking about he would just have, let's say he would just have wrestling, but that wrestling would be so strong and he would be so much more of an athlete that, and he'd be younger, so he would just destroy both divisions. You'd see at that time, like, I guarantee you'd see a 2-division simultaneously champ. Today's standards, you would say Cormier was the greatest of all time because he would be the Anderson Silva of that era. People would be talking more about Cormier as a GOAT because he would be so dominant. And his hands would be a lot better over time, too, because he adapts easy with things.
So that brings me to my next point, which is Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez has this huge name, good friends with Daniel Cormier from the same gym. He was heavyweight champion while Cormier was light heavyweight champion. His first fight in the UFC was in 2008, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, July 19th, 2008. So if Cormier is already there from 2004, just wreaking havoc on everyone, I think that would either force Cain to stay in Strikeforce, because Cain had one fight in Strikeforce back in 2006, or to go down to light heavyweight, because I do think Cain could possibly make light heavyweight.
Yeah, he is kind of chubby, eh? I don't understand. It must be genetics, but if Cormier could do it, he could do it. And I honestly think in that case, like, so what would happen is it comes down to, it's a really hard topic to talk about. Cormier would just destroy legacies that are known today. Chuck, Tito, maybe not Couture, even though I think his legacy still tarnished at 19-11. That's the best record yet. Like, will never be beaten. Wait for you to laugh for a second. So you definitely have tarnished legacies. He would have a better legacy, even though he has a great legacy now at his age. And it still could get better if he beats Stipe. I don't see that happening, but that's pretty much it. Like, he would just wreak havoc. That's the wording of it.
Right, but I don't think him and Cain would have ever fought still. They're still really good friends outside of the cage.
At that time, though?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming. I'm just going off of what we know right now. Hypothetically, that could change as well, but then we're going down a weird rabbit hole. If they did fight, I think Cormier is all wrong for him.
You think Cormier would beat him?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's what sorry, for a second there I thought, yeah. I think Cormier has always been a better fighter than Cain, but that's just my opinion.
I agree. I think Cain he's a hell of a fighter, but I do think he gets a little bit of a boost, which I'm not sure why.
A boost? You mean a weight? Like, he didn't defend his belt enough. He lost by submission, knockout. He's like, his resume is good, but beating Brock Lesnar isn't always making him the greatest heavyweight. Like, topic, Stipe is right now the greatest heavyweight in my opinion. Is a close second, and that could change. And boom, just like that, I'm in a different room. Combat Hour pulling magic out of their ass now. So, all right, we're done talking about Cain Velasquez. You want to talk about Jones?
Yes, that brings us to the last person I want to talk about in this situation, who is the arch rival, the nemesis, toughest fight of Daniel Cormier's life, in Jon Bones Jones. They fought twice. First one was a unanimous decision for Jones. Second one, head kick. Started off the barrage, and then Jones finished him. But it got called a no contest because of adverse findings in Jon Jones' samples after the fight. Jon Jones started his UFC career in August 9, 2008. So he joined the UFC before Cormier even started MMA. And he is 8 years younger?
Yeah.
How do you think that would happen?
So they would meet up, or they could. Well, Jon Jones, I think Cormier would honestly have a legacy, and he wouldn't end up fighting Jon Jones just because of their careers. Like, he didn't get a title shot, and he wasn't even supposed to get a title shot. So I think like UFC 123, Jon Jones, even though he came to the UFC at UFC 190-ish or whatever. And so he would just be starting his career, where Cormier would, even though he'd be winding down at that point. he wouldn't need to fight anymore. So I don't see them crossing paths because Jon Jones wasn't even supposed to get a title shot. He was supposed to he filled in against Shogun against Rua. So we don't even know how the landscape of the light heavyweight division would be. Cormier would never have to even really go to light heavyweight, so I don't see them meeting up there because he'd be so dominant as a heavyweight because Kane would never have been champion.
See, I kind of agree, but I'm not fully. So look at when Jones' first title shot. He was 22 back. I think he was 22 back in 2011.
Yeah.
So that brings us to Cormier, still only 31, right in the midst of his physical prime. The question is, does DC decide to go to light heavyweight? I don't know. It depends if he wants to do the championship thing. Depends if he wants to cut the weight. It's hard to say. I do think that fight would have happened still at some point because they would still have been the two best guys in the sport. It's hard to say. Do the extra fights and extra miles on DC take away from him, or does he learn more and have more tools fighting Jon Jones at a younger age? I tend to think a younger DC gives Jon Jones a better fight. Does he win? Probably not, but we might have seen a trilogy because he was so much younger at that point.
But that being said, Jon Jones would have had that killer instinct and been a lot scarier fighting Cormier too, in my opinion.
That's true.
So maybe the fights would have just been better, so we don't know.
Right.
That's why we do What If.
All in all, though, hats off to Daniel Cormier, one of the good guys in the sport, never failed the drug test, one of the best competitors of all time. And I hope he does well in his trilogy for Stipe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. And I just think everyone's legacy, if he would have started at that time, a lot of these fighters that have legacies, like Chuck Liddell, Ortiz, wouldn't have the legacy they do. Cormier would have reigned on top for a long time, like a silver run, and he would have just had an even bigger legacy than he would have now. And he would have had more options.
It would have been cool to see him fight Fedor back in the day.
That would have been a great fight. All right, we are out today. Talk to you later, guys. All right.